In 2010, Earl Anthony Wayne was confirmed by the Senate as a career ambassador. He has held a variety of diplomatic and policy posts, including serving as U.S. ambassador to Mexico from 2011 to 2015. Tony Wayne is currently a public policy fellow with the Wilson Center's Mexico Institute. Tony, welcome to Now. Thanks for joining us.
It's a great pleasure to be here and to be at the Wilson Center.
Well, it's great having you here as well. Well, speaking of the Wilson Center, yesterday, Secretary of State Kerry visits the center, makes a compelling argument on behalf of TPP, but also of trade in general. We have this new report from the Mexico Institute, Growing Together Economic Ties Between the United States and Mexico, which outlines a host of benefits that both countries receive. And yet, if you were just listening to campaign rhetoric, you would think trade is a disaster and trade has become a four-letter word. Why?
Well, I think that there are people who have not profited under trade. The benefits are uneven and they're spread in different parts of the economy. But who you don't hear from are the people that are actually having good jobs because of trade. Their incomes are going up. Export-related jobs on average pay 18% more than manufacturing jobs that are just aimed at the United States. Mm-hmm. And what we found in this new study about Mexico-U.S. trade is that there are $4.9 million worth, 4.9 million jobs net plus that are created by the amount of commerce that we have with Mexico. It's over $1 million a minute that we trade with Mexico. And when you're listening to the speeches about this, you don't hear that part of the argument, that there is a big chunk of the economy that is really profiting because Mexico is the second largest client we have in the world. Only Canada outranks it as a place that buys more from us.
So why? Why is that? Or why are those voices muted?
Well, it's like the question of why does the good news not get covered around the world? I think that's part of the reason. And there's no question that some people have lost jobs, and that some of those people who lost their jobs did not find new ones. But the solutions are looking at the kind of retraining and placement programs we have, the programs that we have to make the U.S. more competitive in the world or that we don't have. And that's what we need to be debating, not blaming this whole trend on our neighbors in North America. In fact, the studies that have looked at job losses attribute most of them to new technology being introduced that increases the productivity but with fewer workers, and trade with China.
So we've essentially misdiagnosed part of the problem, and even if we didn't have certain trade agreements, technology would still be displacing workers. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. The competition in the world doesn't change because of our druthers. The whole basis of our economy is that we try to be more competitive. Some people win, some people lose, and we try to make sure that those who lose don't suffer or have the kind of support they need to become winners again in that economy. And that's what we need to be doing now, not scapegoating certain countries or certain causes when they aren't the real source of the problem.
Based on what you're describing, it would sound as if once the ink is dry in a trade pact, then there needs to be the next level of legislation that addresses the displacement caused by that.
Well, I would
or associated with that.
Yeah, I would say even simultaneously, you should be working on these things. Because, for example, one of the things we know is that the best investment you can make is in your human capital for the long-term good of the country. And that's academic training, but it's also technical training. And we frankly have not been doing a good job in keeping up with the changing world in that area. And similarly, there has been discussion about our infrastructure. Infrastructure is a great creator of jobs, but it also helps make us more competitive in the world because it's cheaper to move things back and forth. It's more efficient. Our economy is more efficient. We should be looking at those things and acting on those things. At the same time, we're looking at opportunities in the world for trade. We do sell a lot of things and a lot of good things, and our two biggest clients are our two neighbors.
Well, I should also mention to those watching us that the report that I've referenced and that Tony has spoken about is available online at wilsoncenter.org, and we'll give you the specific URL on the lower third during this discussion. The other thing I wanted to ask you about is two specific trade deals, one existing and one pending. NAFTA. NAFTA has been villainized in this, if that's the right word, in this election campaign as a source of a lot of problems. I'm guessing you don't agree with that.
I think that's right. First, let me say that the studies, serious economic studies of NAFTA, have found that it's not clear if there's a net gain or loss of jobs in the United States.
Unclear.
Unclear. Whereas studies with other trading relationships have seen, with China, for example, have shown 2 million jobs lost in the last decade and a half. So, but what has happened is that production has shifted. There's no question about that. That jobs that require fewer skills have moved to Mexico. And that in turn, higher skilled jobs have been created in the United States. And what that has left unaddressed are those lower skilled workers in the U.S. What do they start doing now? But the solution isn't to make U.S. industry less competitive. It's to help
train those workers for new jobs,
so they can do new jobs and add more to the economy. And it's also one of the values of all of this is it's lowered costs for consumers, and it's made our goods produced increasingly in North America more competitive with those produced in other parts of the world.
So the other trade deal, the pending TPP, what's going to happen here? If we went by the campaign, both candidates would scrap the deal.
Well, I think Secretary Kerry, as you said, was here yesterday at the Wilson Center. He made a powerful set of arguments as to the strategic benefit of TPP as reinforcing our presence and our ties in Asia, as really securing a group of countries tied together with us for decades to come. And that the real danger, if we pull out of that, is that people will question our resolve and our determination to secure that place in the world economy. And in fact, there is another big country out there, China, trying to set up its own institutions and relationships and its own sets of rules. One of the things about TPP is that it has the highest set of standards of rules that we've ever had in a trade agreement. So there are specifics you can debate, plus and minus, because it's a big agreement with a lot of complication. But overall, it is, I believe, a big plus for the U.S. role in the world.
A final thought, and I'm sorry to ask you to do a prediction, but essentially, look, you've been around this game a long time, from the political angle, the diplomatic angle, from the technicalities of trade and trade agreements. What do you see happening in the next several months or years, given the seeming disconnect between some of the realities and some of the campaign rhetoric?
Well, what I hope's going to happen is that we will insist on having more of a discussion based on fact and not on perception. Not on how somebody feels about something, but what's really happening there.
And are you optimistic that can happen?
I think it can happen. There'll be some segments that will resist doing that. We know that. But if we keep, with determination, moving to put the facts out in front of people and to point out the benefits that are going on at the same time, I think we can have an impact. But there's no question this is a very complicated time in the world. There are a lot of things going on that we can't predict, security threats, technological innovation, and we need to adapt to that. There are long-term challenges for our economy and our society, even if we just keep looking at the advancement of technology. If you need fewer and fewer jobs, human jobs, because you have a higher level of technology, how do you adapt to give those people whose jobs are eliminated a meaningful employment, meaningful income? We need to grapple with that, and our leaders need to grapple with it, and they need to do so thoughtfully.
Big questions. Well, Ambassador Tony Wayne, thank you for helping us in the search for light at a time of excessive noise. Appreciate your input.
It's my pleasure. Thanks very much.